Hi, and welcome to another episode of Discovering Psychology with me, Philip Zimbardo. Today we're going to be talking about the eye and its various parts and functions. The first part of the eye is the vitreous humor, which maintains the eye's round shape. Next is the pupil, which is the round hole in the center of the eye that lets the light in. The iris is a colored muscle surrounding the pupil that closes and opens, allowing light to enter. This process, of which it squeezes the pupil and opens it, is called accommodation. Inside of the eye is the lens, which focuses light. It also flips the image onto the retina. The retina is located in the back of the eye, is where all the receptors are. Rod receptors perceive white, black, and gray. They are used for peripheral and twilight. They are located on the outer edge of the retina. Cone receptors perceive the fine detail and color from light. They are centered in the middle of the retina. The light is converted into electrical impulses which travel down the optic nerve to the visual cortex. There, the brain reassembles the images and flips it back to normal. That is how we perceive light.
Sensation is a process by which our sensory receptors and nervous system receive and represent stimuli energy from the environment. Perception is a process of organizing and interpreting sensory information by recognizing objects and events. Bottom-up processing is an example of sensation, which is analyzing things with the sensory receptors. On the other hand, top-down processing is an example of perception, which is from our experiences and expectations. Example of sensation and perception in psychology is the use of psychophysics, which is the study of the relationship between the physical characteristics of stimuli. This study of psychology uses several different factors, one of which is being the absolute threshold, which is the minimum amount of stimuli needed to sense an object. Signal detection theory is another of these theories, which is how and when we detect a stimuli amid background stimulation. In contrast to the absolute threshold, the difference threshold is the minimum difference between two stimuli needed to detect the other one. Finally, subliminal sensation is the detection of stimuli below the absolute threshold.
In this portion, we're going to be talking about how color and light play an important role in sensation and perception. To begin, our eyes receive light, energy, and transduce it into neural messages that our brain then processes into what we see. The reason why we see color is because our eyes receive pulses of electromagnetic energy, in which our visual system perceives as color. Electromagnetic energy works in a type of spectrum called the electromagnetic spectrum. The spectrum works from a spectrum of short waves, like gamma rays, to longer waves, such as radio transmission. Visible light is in the middle of this spectrum. Visible light is the only electromagnetic energy that humans can see with the naked eye. There are two very important physical characteristics of light that determine our sensory experience of it. This is wavelength and intensity. Wavelength is what determines the hue or color we ultimately see. So if a wavelength or visible light is shorter, we will see a blue/violet color. If it's longer, we will see a red color. Lastly, intensity is the amounts of energy in a light or sound wave. It has a great influence over the brightness of visible light.
In this portion, we'll be talking about distance and depth. Distance is the extent of space between 2 points the human eye can see about 3 miles far. If the earth was flat or you were standing on a mountain peak, you'll be able to see bright lights for hundreds of miles. On a dark night, you could see a candle flickering 30 miles away. To see distance, it depends on many particles of light. Depth is the ability to see objects in 3 dimensions, although images strike the retina at 2 dimensions. This allows us to judge distance depth.
The brain compares both images sent from the eye in past experiences to calculate depth. The visual cliff experiment helps identify at what age we can perceive depth. Eleanor Gibson and Richard Walk devised this miniature cliff with a glass cover drop-off to determine whether crawling infants and newborn animals can perceive depth, even when coaxed infants are reluctant to not venture on.
Visual perception is the ability to interpret the surrounding environment by processing information that is contained in visible light. The resulting perception is also known as eyesight, sight, or vision. However, sometimes our mind can play tricks on us. There are certain things that the human eye can't detect, as there are also things that it confuses. This leads to the topic of optical illusions. Optical illusion is an experience of seeming to see something that does not exist, or that is other than it appears. It is something that deceives one's eyes and causes such an experience. For instance,